The king's task. Rudyard Kipling. After the sack of the city, when Rome was sunk to a name, in the years that the lights were darkened, or ever Saint Wilfrid came, lo, on the borders of Britain, the ancient poets sing, between the cliff and the forest there ruled a Saxon king. Stubborn all were his people from cotter to overlord, not to be cowed by the cudgel, scarce to be schooled by the sword. Quick to turn at their pleasure, cruel to cross in their mood, and set on paths of their choosing as the hogs of Andred's wood. Laws they made in the Witan, the laws of flaying and fine, common, loppage and pannage, the theft and the track of kin, statutes of chin and of market for the fish and the malt and the meal, the tax on the Bramber pack horse and the tax on the Hastings keel. Over the graves of the Druids and under the wreck of Rome, rudely but surely they bedded the plinth of the days to come. Behind the feet of the legions and before the Norsemen's ire, rudely but greatly begat they the framing of state and shire. Rudely but deeply they labored, and their labor stands till now, if we trace on our ancient headlands the twist of their 8-ox plow. There came a king from Humchin, by Bosenham he came, he filled ewes with slaughter, and loos he gave to flame. He smote while they sat in a Witan, sudden he smote and sore, that his fleet was gathered at Selsey ere they mustered at Semenzor. Blithe went the Saxons to battle, by down and wood and mere, but thrice the acorns ripened ere the western mark was clear. Thrice was the beech mast gathered, and the Belton fires burnt thrice, and the beads were salted thrice ere the host returned. They drove that king from Humchin, by Bosenham o'erthrown, or of Rugner to Wilton they made his land their own. Camps they builded at Gilling, at Batesing and Alresford, but wrath abode in the Saxons from cotter to overlord. Wrath at the weary war game, at the foe that snapped and ran, wolf-wise feigning and flying, and wolf-wise snatching his man. Wrath for their spears unready, their levies new to the blade, shame for the helpless sieges and the scornful ambuscade. At hearth and tavern and market, wherever the tale was told, shame and wrath had the Saxons because of their boasts of old. And some would drink and deny it, and some would pray and atone. But the most part, after their anger, avouched that the sin was their own. Wherefore, girding together, up to the Witan they came, and as they had shouldered their bucklers so did they shoulder their blame. For that was the wont of the Saxons, the ancient poets sing, and first they spoke in the Witan, and then they spoke to the king, Amperson quo. Edward king of the Saxons, thou knowest from sire to son, Amperson quo. One is the king and his people, in gain and ungain one. Amperson quo. Count we the gain together. With doubtings and spread dismays Amperson quo. We have broken a foolish people, but after many days. Amperson quo. Count we the loss together. Warlocks hampered our arms. Amperson quo. We were tricked as by magic, we were turned as by charms. Amperson quo. We went down to the battle and the road was plain to keep. Amperson quo. But our angry eyes were holden, and we struck as they strike in sleep. Amperson quo. Men new shaken from slumber, sweating with eyes astare. Amperson quo. Little blows uncertain, dealt on the useless air. Amperson quo. Also a vision betrayed us and a lying tale made bold. Amperson quo. That we looked to hold what we had not and to have what we did not hold, that a shield should give us shelter, that a sword should give us power, a shield snatched up at a venture and a hilt scarce handled an hour. Amperson quo. That being rich in the open, we should be strong in the close. Amperson quo. And the gods would sell us a cunning for the day that we met our foes. Amperson quo. This was the work of wizards, but not with our foe they bind. Amperson quo. In our own camp we took them, and their names are Sloth and Pride. Amperson quo. Our pride was before the battle, our sloth ere we lifted spear. Amperson quo. But hid in the heart of the people, as the fever hides in the mere. Amperson quo. Waiting only the war game, the heat of the strife to rise. Amperson quo. As the ague fumes round Ozini when the rotting reed bed dries. Amperson quo. But now we are purged of that fever, cleansed by the letting of blood. Amperson quo. Something leaner of body, something keener of mood. Amperson quo. And the men new, freed from the levies, returned to the fields again. Amperson quo. Matching 100 battles, Cotter in the Lord and Thane. Ampersand quo. And they talk loud in the temples where the ancient war gods are. Ampersand quo. They thumb and mock and belittle the holy harness of war. Ampersand quo. They jest at the sacred chariots, the robes and the gilded staff. Ampersand quo. These things fill them with laughter, they lean on their spears and laugh. Ampersand quo. The men grown old in the war game, hither and thither they range. Ampersand quo. And scorn and laughter together are sire and dam of change. Ampersand quo. And change may be good or evil, but we know not what it will bring. Ampersand quo. Therefore our king must teach us. That is thy task, Zero King. Ampersand quo.